Right now, the housing market is changing in some pretty significant ways. Not only are we seeing home sales hit 30-year lows in terms of transaction volume, which is crazy news in itself, considering the population here in the United States is much higher than it was 30 years ago, but we are also seeing the highest number of brand new houses on the market for sale since we saw in 2009 during the last housing market crash. These home builders are having a very tough time selling these houses, even though they're practically giving them away. You will not find a set of more incentives available than if you are out looking to buy a brand new house right now in 2025. They even are increasing their discounts. They are increasing the incentives to buy these homes right now, and still you're seeing record levels of inventory going back to 2009. And it's all for the same reasons that we're seeing existing homes sit on the market as well. It all comes down to affordability. We have 30-year mortgage rates sitting roughly at about 7.2% right now. The median price of a brand new single-family home sold as of December of 2024 was $427,000. And in order to be able to afford a home like that, you need to make well past six figures a year, probably around $110,000, $115,000 a year to be able to comfortably afford a house like that. And you have to wonder if builders are having a hard time selling these houses, even with the best interest rates and the best incentives that one can get to buy these homes. What is that going to spell out for the rest of the housing market in terms of existing home sales throughout the rest of 2025? We also have a combination of a couple things happening in our economy right now, making it even more difficult to buy, as if the prices weren't bad enough. You know, the interest rates are higher than what most people can afford in terms of payments, combined with the price. And when you combine that with the softening labor market and more people losing jobs right now, or even having the fear of losing a job, even if you haven't lost one, that is enough to keep a lot of people sidelined. And you know, you combine those people with the ones who just can't afford it, it's no wonder that home sales are at 30-year lows right now. And according to the National Association of Home Builders, about 30% of home builders cut their prices in January this year, and the average price reduction was 5%. So that's not a bad reduction for just 1 month. And who knows, we're probably going to see more price reductions coming as they continue to sit on these homes, because ultimately the home builder's goal is they need to sell these houses. Even if it ends up being for less than what it's listed for now, the more those homes sit on the market, the more money they lose. So it's not really in their best interest to have these homes just sit. As of January this year, also 61% of home builders are offering incentives to sell their houses, like mortgage rate buy downs and sometimes even a permanent reduction in interest rates. Guys, you are seeing some builders right now where they can get you very close to a low 5% interest rate on buying a brand new house, which is a whole 2 to 2.5 percentage points lower than what you'll find on the resale market. So that is significant. So here's the thing, even though we're seeing brand new homes at inventory levels that we haven't seen since 2009, the sales figures on brand new homes have actually been growing over the past year. That's right, they sold more brand new houses in 2024 than they did in 2023, all while still having too many sitting on the market going back about 16, 17 years ago. And also, these brand new houses are facing more competition from the resale market as well, because we have seen the inventory on the resale market rise substantially over the past year. In fact, housing market inventory across the resale market is pretty much at pre-pandemic levels if you look at where we were at the beginning of 2020. But one of the biggest problems is a lot of these brand new houses are being built in places where we don't actually need new houses. You know, you're seeing the home prices in the Midwest and the Northeast, for example, continue to climb as inventory remains sharply below where it was pre-pandemic. And all of these brand new houses are being built in places where we're seeing a lot of resale inventory come onto the market. So there's a huge imbalance right now of where the inventory is. And basically the market is completely lopsided. You're seeing way too much inventory in some areas of the country while not nearly enough inventory in other places. Hence why you see prices coming down in a lot of areas here in the South and some areas out west, and the price is still going up in the Midwest and the Northeast. NAR, the National Association of Realtors, they came out with a couple of predictions on the housing market. They believe that once mortgage rates hit 6.5%, that's going to be enough to bring buyers back into the market. Well, if anybody remembers, about a year ago they were saying it was supposed to be 5.5%, where that buyers might be interested in coming back into the market. Now they're saying it's 6.5%. Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe we might see a small uptick in people, but to be honest with you guys, that is not going to be enough to move the needle, especially if prices remain stubbornly high. But the reason NAR says 6.5% is the key interest rate that it needs to come down to is because this is the moment when people who make less than $100,000 a year will actually be able to qualify for a mortgage at those rates and today's prices. They say if the interest rates stabilize at around 6%, then that will mean 6.2 million additional households can afford the median price home in America compared to with interest rates at 7%. And it's always so crazy. You never ever hear them focus on price, right? You never hear the NAR or any other real estate outlet for that matter come out and say, well, we need to see prices come down. They always say if interest rates come down to X, Y, or Z, then this is going to be the catalyst that kicks the market back into gear. You never hear them talk about we need lower prices. However, at least their home price prediction is more in line with reality. They believe that the median home price in America will only go up 2% this year, which really isn't that much, especially when you look at the actual breakdown of which homes are selling. And the homes on the higher end of the market take up a tremendous amount of the home sales, guys, and that is enough to move the needle upwards when it comes to the median home price significantly. That's in fact one of the main reasons we're seeing home prices climb so much right now, is because of how much the prices have gone up on the high end of the market for people that can afford to buy pretty much anything, and money is no object. But this is really stupid because it misses the entire point. You know, you might have 6 million more people that can afford to buy a house that couldn't if rates come down to 6%. But all these real estate organizations keep predicting that home prices will keep going up, right? So let's say that that combination of things happens, right? Let's say at some point this year, hypothetically, we reach 6% mortgage rates on a 30-year loan and home prices continue to go up. Well, how long will it be then before a 6% mortgage rate is no longer affordable because prices went up? And then if prices continued to go up from there, how long would it be before a 5% mortgage rate is no longer affordable for people to buy the median price home? You see where I'm getting at with this? You see how the price point for homes is far more important than what the interest rate is? Because you can keep lowering the interest rate and lowering the interest rate, but if the prices just continue to go up, then eventually even a 0% interest rate will become unaffordable for the average income household, which is not sustainable. And that is the direction that the market is currently moving in, and it's why it will not last. Also, as many of you who watch my channel regularly know, there is a whole slew of other headwinds that are facing the housing market at large right now. Homeowners insurance companies raise their rates by about 10.4% as of the end of the year. In 2023, it was 12.7%. So think about that for a minute. The last 2 years in a row, we have seen double-digit increases in homeowner insurance premiums across the board. That's almost a 25% increase in just 2 years. Now, it wasn't everywhere, but 33 states across the country saw their homeowners insurance premiums go up by double digits last year. And The biggest spike actually wasn't in Florida or California, where most people would expect. No, it actually was in Nebraska at 22.7%. In fact, Florida or California didn't even make the top 5 in terms of percentage increases in their premiums, guys. Take a look at this. Premiums in Iowa, Minnesota, Montana, Utah, and Washington State jumped by more than 20% last year. Now, the reason why Florida is not on this list, and probably California too, is because we've already seen our insurance rates jump way before this, way before 2024, and things have kind of started leveling out, at least in Florida, as of 2024. Like, you might have seen an increase, but chances are you've already seen a big increase prior to now. But like I keep telling everybody here on the channel, that no one is immune to this, and everyone is gonna get hit with this eventually, and now you're starting to see it happen in places where you wouldn't necessarily expect. In fact, in 2024, Florida actually had the lowest premium increase at just 1%, and Texas was at 3.4%, followed by Nevada at 4.3%. So kind of funny how we're at the bottom of the list now for insurance increases. That's because we've already paid our dues. We've already been slapped with these enormous increases already. You had American Family Insurance, who implemented the biggest increase last year at 16.5%, followed by Liberty Mutual and Progressive, who hiked their rates the most after that. And of course, they blame it on the usual suspects: high inflation, too many natural disasters, blah, 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 the same things we've heard already a bunch of times before. And listen, I'm not saying that home insurance companies have no grounds in raising their rates. Obviously, every business needs to make a living, right? Everybody needs to turn a profit to make it worthwhile. But one thing we know for sure is these insurance companies continue to hit record profits at a time when they're crying that they're going broke and we need to raise their rates, and their CEOs are getting millions of dollars in bonuses each year. So that's definitely suspicious, guys. And me personally, I wouldn't have any problem with rates on insurance going up purely out of necessity of inflation, right? If they could show the real numbers and say, look, here's how much our costs went up to replace everything, so therefore this is why we need to increase our rates, and you didn't see these CEOs walking away with millions of dollars in bonuses, then it wouldn't be so irritating, right? But the fact of the matter is, none of this is really disclosed. A lot of it is hidden. They don't really tell you why rates are going up or give you any clear grounds or answer to justify how much any insurance premium goes up. So you're just kind of stuck with it, and you're stuck shopping around for somebody else that hopefully you can get better and cheaper coverage with. And it's interesting too, because insurance seemingly played this very important role in society for such a long time, right? Where if there is a big natural disaster or some kind of devastating loss, then a lot of people would get coverage and be able to rebuild their lives from whatever the situation might be. But what you are in fact seeing more and more these days is insurance companies dodging the bullet. They're collecting premiums, but oftentimes whatever happens is no longer covered. The recent fire situation we saw in LA is a perfect example of that. How many people lost their fire insurance before the fire happened, right? And they're not going to have coverage. And then also, like here in Florida, we had the 2 major hurricanes that hit us, Helene and Milton, over the summer of 2024. What happened with that? A lot of the damage was blamed on flood, maybe some of it rightfully so, maybe some of it not. And a lot of claims were denied with that. Now, obviously, if you're living in a hurricane zone, you should have flood insurance. There's not really any good excuses not to have it. But people think that they're covered for a lot of things that they're not. And when something actually does happen, that's when they finally realize that, hey, I'm not covered with this, once it's actually too late. And more people are experiencing that than ever before. And you could say, well, it's their fault for not really knowing what their coverage is. They don't know what kind of insurance they're buying. So how is it the insurance company's fault? But the reality is there's like zero transparency in the insurance business either, guys. And even a seasoned insurance agent might have a hard time even understanding what's covered in certain parts of a policy and what's not by the way that they word things. You have insurance attorneys that have been working this business for 30 years that still don't understand what they're writing in these policies half the time. They make it so obscure and so questionable of what's covered and what's not, and which event and which situation, that it makes it almost impossible to know if you have the proper coverage or not. And some places are seeing dramatic increases in insurance as well. Like there was a story out of Long Island, right? This property worth $2 million. They got quoted $48,000 per year for homeowners insurance, which the previous price they were paying was $6,000 a year. Imagine that shock right there, you know, going up like what, almost 10 times, going up 8 times. That's crazy. There was another story here out of Florida where this house that was valued at $7 million had an insurance premium, get this guys, wait for this one, $340,000 for the year. Now maybe if you're buying a $7 million house, that might sound like a bargain, but that is just astronomical. That is more than what even the top 95% of people even earn per year in this country, and somebody's looking at paying that for homeowners insurance. I'd be willing to bet they're probably skipping out on it. They're probably gonna go bare and do no insurance and just take their chances at those rates. That's my guess anyways. Especially if you have $7 million, can probably afford to self-insure. And California is going to start seeing the real brunt of this as well, especially now that the fire situation has happened, because first of all, you're not having any insurance companies write new policies right now in Southern California because they're just waiting to see what's going to happen. They want to wait to see until all the fires are out before they start writing new insurance policies. And guess what that means? You can't close on any real estate in the meantime. You can't buy a house unless you're getting insurance, as long as you're getting a mortgage anyhow. So if you're somebody that wants to buy a house over there, you better be paying cash and be willing to go without insurance for now. Even going back to 2023, you had 7% of real estate deals fall through due to insurance issues, and then it rose to 13% of deals falling through due to insurance issues as of October of 2024, guys. So clearly, California is just as much in the weeds on this whole insurance debacle as we are here in Florida. What happens to home prices when you can no longer get insurance and the only people who can buy the house are cash buyers? The price is gonna have to come down substantially to compensate not only for the risk, but also for the inability to even obtain insurance. But going back to the point I was making at the beginning of this video with all these brand new homes just sitting on the market and home sales hitting 30-year lows right now, this all ties back into the affordability issue we talked about, okay? And according to Oxford Economics, they recently discovered that the housing affordability has dropped significantly over the past 5 years, and in 173 of America's major metropolitan areas, a household now needs to earn about $108,000 a year to afford a new single-family home. So how many households really fit that criteria? Not very many. Hence why the sales are so low. In fact, only 36% of households across America can actually afford a house right now, compared to 59% back in the third quarter of 2019. Guys, look at that. It has dropped almost in half over the past 5-6 years or so. Back then, you could buy a house with a combined household income of $56,800 a year, and today it has ballooned to $108,000 a year. Your income that's required to buy a home has basically doubled. But guess what? People's pay and incomes have not doubled. At least in many cases they haven't, which is why you're seeing only 36% of households being able to afford a home today. And the crazy thing is that only relates to what the actual house payment is. We're talking about your principal and your interest payment, maybe your property taxes and insurance too, right? But those expenses also continue to skyrocket, like we've talked about here many times. Those are not fixed expenses. It's not a stable expense, your property taxes and your insurance. Only your principal and your interest payment on your mortgage remains fixed if you get a fixed loan. So what are you supposed to do as a prospective home buyer today in 2025? Do you just give up and wait? Well, that would be the most ideal thing to do if you ask me, but if you must buy this year, then there's a few things you can do. Number one, you can look at moving to the Midwest, which is the last place that homes are affordable in the US. It's the only place left where you can still have plenty of options to choose from that are $150,000, sometimes even less, but many of these markets in the Midwest, you're still looking at median home prices of well under $200,000, which is within the range of affordability for pretty much anybody looking to buy a house. Although just be prepared that you are facing an entirely different animal over there, because these are the areas that are facing extremely low inventory still, and you may even run into the ridiculous situation of bidding wars in 2025 due to the low inventory situation. So be ready for that. Also, another thing I would highly and strongly suggest is, no matter where you're looking to buy a home these days, pay attention to what the property tax rates are, guys, because here's the thing. The more expensive in an area you buy a house, then the more you're going to pay in property taxes, regardless of what the property tax rates are, due to the higher purchase price. But if you can find a place to buy where the prices are reasonable, but the property taxes are pretty low, then you can still afford to buy a decent price house, maybe even in the median price range, even though you might be paying below what property taxes would be in a lot of other places. So I would think that's important for a couple of reasons, because there's so many other expenses that keep rising as a homeowner. And at least if you can keep your property taxes in check at a time when you know for sure your insurance premiums will probably go up, you can fix 3 out of the 4 main expenses with housing. You're going to have your interest and principal payment fixed, but also if you can keep your property tax payment relatively fixed, then you only have to worry about insurance. But just keep in mind that because property taxes are low right now and you haven't seen big increases, doesn't mean it can't go up. We're seeing people right now that haven't seen their property taxes go up in 10, 15 years, all of a sudden get their property taxes raised by 30 to 40% overnight. So that is possible, depending on how often the area you're looking to buy in reassesses the property taxes. So look into that too. And also don't forget, if you need a real estate agent, whether you're looking to buy or sell, I got you covered. You can easily find somebody in your area. It's a 100% free service I offer. All you have to do is use the link down in the description of all of my videos, and I'll get you set up with that ASAP. So based on what's happening right now, I would say that we are facing a year of not a whole lot happening in terms of movement with the housing market. You're not going to see a whole lot of people jump in and buy at these prices and interest rates. You're probably not going to see prices move in any significant way, either up or down in a lot of markets, except for markets that are seeing a tremendous increase in inventory throughout the year. Those are areas you're going to see the prices come down the most. But the one hope I will give you as a home buyer, if this year's anything like last year, we're going to see inventory continue to go up. Like we just talked about earlier, you have home builders sitting on a tremendous amount of inventory. They're having a hard time moving, okay? And then you're going to continue having more and more sellers put their homes on the market due to life happening. That's the number one reason why people put their home on the market, but also because of all these rising expenses that we keep talking about here. And a lot of those homes get listed and they don't get sold. So the inventory is going to continue to pile up and pile up as less and less people can afford to buy or are willing to buy these homes. And that is ultimately going to lead to a much more stable and balanced and fair housing market into the future. Can't say when, but that's how it happens. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.